Good morning and welcome, and some of you welcome back. And as a fall class of 2025, another 10 weeks, we'll share another subject, which would be a little unfamiliar to many of you guys. It's called Ministry Practicum, and I'll try to explain what it is. But my title on the class would be Biblical Christian Ministry, Theory and Practice. And we'll begin by looking at the course syllabus. Which will introduce to you what the course is basically about. Okay. Oops. So, course description. This will give just a rough, basic idea what we are going to do throughout this 10 weeks class. Okay. Students will learn a foundation for Christian ministry and its leadership, and also know-how, meaning how to do it, the skills by providing students with basic principles and structures rooted in biblical lessons that will guide them as Christian leaders in facilitating, meaning equipping or making you trained, establishment and growth of a Christian congregation. So basically, we suppose you are all Christian. And this class also suppose that you are a sort of leader in a church setting, which may not be true, but since this is a Christian college, and we expect all of us, our students, to be the leaders in a Christian church. You may not be a Christian if you're, either Catholic or Protestant, you are considered Christian. But if you're of another religion, for example, Islam or Buddhism, still, the principles are the same. So wherever you belong, your religion is, even though we are trying to teach you or speak of Christian congregation, the church, but any of religious organization would have similar or the same principle of running that organization, since both church and other temples or synagogue, all these have certain organization and principles for teaching or helping others to learn in that particular religion that is given. So what we are supposing is, you are working in a church setting or church context as a teacher or associate pastor or even a pastor in that church. In addition, students will be equipped to engage in practical ministerial experience as well as reflection related to current ministerial context. Basically what it's saying is we are trying to help you to engage and involve and make a real practical training in a church context. So you are to do certain, have a certain job or responsibility in a church, whether it's a volunteer, whether it's a paid, doesn't matter. We are assuming that you are working in a church. Because, most of these Christian colleges and universities in America, they only accept Christians usually. But the Lordland College will not make that mandatory. So we do have some other kind of students, and you are not necessarily working in a church, but assume just yourself as a church leader or the leader of your own religion, and try to make it applicable as much as possible to your given context. So that's basic description of the course, and these are some of the objectives that we are trying to reach or accomplish as we finish this 10 weeks course. Number one, acquire once you are done with this 10-hour class, we expect you to acquire comprehensive knowledge on overall Christian ministry and various fields of ministry. So whatever the ministry setting you are to get the knowledge and the theories and the principles. Number two, gain experiential knowledge of ministry through ministry participation. So you are to participate or engage or involve in a given job, and then you are learning from those experiences. Number three, gain insight into practical ministry through the mentor-student relationship. So any ministry practicum that is given in any Christian college or university or theological schools in America, we expect students to have a mentor in a church who is able to and responsible to teach each student in that particular church. So this structure is very important in this ministry practicum, but some of us may not have that privilege or the setting. I understand this is very kind of special, particular case. But if you're in like a seminary or a theological school, then you are required. You cannot pass or receive a degree unless you pass this ministry practicum. So I've seen some students my colleagues in my seminary training who was not able to pass or get graduate because they did not pass passing grade on this ministry practicum. So this is kind of not only mandatory, it is very necessity for your graduation in any Christian schools. Number four, develop Bible-based ministry perspectives and define personal ministry gifts. So as we go on in this ministry practicum, students will know and learn and develop their own gift as a Christian leader or a Christian minister. So that's what we are expecting from this course. And practically speaking, probably we are not able to do all these, and more like we'll, I don't want this more to be on the theory and principle side than the practice one. So you don't need to worry about getting the church involvement. So that's an exception that school makes for you guys for the special circumstances. Knowing that. So we'll probably focus more on the theory and principle rather than these are the textbooks. If you're really into doing a ministry in a church setting, I recommend one of these books. These are very, very basic, but they don't cover everything. For example, Shepherd Like Jesus will just focus on how Jesus did his ministry. So that's the perspective on that one. The second one by Clooney, Edmund Clooney, titled "Call to the Ministry." That's basically for the people who begin his or her ministry in a church, and it kind of gives you a checklist of your calling, and am I really qualified to be a minister in a church? A third book by Mark Dance, Start to Finish, A Pastor's Guide to Leading a Resilient Life and Ministry. This is for the more professional pastors or ordained pastors who will be taking care of whole congregation. So I rather recommend first two books than the third one, because I don't see any of us here are being ordained for now. So probably you will need to read the third book later on if you're kind of expecting or hoping to become a pastor in a church. So these are basic books. There are many other good books. I mean, this isn't just an introduction kind of, thing, and you can find the better books if you do some research on the title of Christian ministry, or the book on Christian ministry. You can Google them, and they have very short and condensed books as well. So that's course textbooks. Now, this is more important. Course requirements. On-site internship. So this is a kind of must for the proper ministry practicum. And the student, we expect them to be participate in a local church ministry. It can be a small group. I mean, the Sunday school teacher, or working as a deacon, or the doing it should involve any sort of teaching, least. So that's what the requirement is. And in addition, the student will meet with the mentor. Again, you are to expect to be meeting with the mentor, and then have that, kind of a conversation, dialogue with this mentor regarding the ministry philosophy and your theology, how you perceive the Christianity and Christian ministry, and so on. So the mentor takes a very key part in this ministry practicum course. So continuing on this idea of internship, or the mentor internship, all students participating in the church ministry practicum will also be involved in ongoing discussion regarding current topics and assigned reading. So that's kind of extra. Attendance. For this class, your grade is given basically on the attendance. So I'll ask you to sign up the attendance sheet by the end of the class. We'll have like a 15-minute class, first part of class, and 10-minute break, and another 15 minutes. So probably hoping to end at 10:50, and you'll sign up the attendance sheet. I forgot to print out my own attendance sheet, but we have a school one, so you can just print your name and sign it for today. Again, it counts as a 6-point each attendance, and the 60 will be given at the end of the semester once you're attending all 10 classes. Especially for those who are I-20 students with the I-20 visa, and this America is getting very strict about student attendance and policy and everything. So you need to be very careful to make sure that you abide according to these, I-20 visa rules, and which require your attendance. There are certain percentage that you need to require. I don't remember, but when I was at the school with the I-20 visa myself, I was 80% or more. If you drop under 80%, it doesn't count as a successful class. So used to we have online attendance counted, but no longer that would be the case. So again, mentored ministry. Number 1, the student will complete ministry's project either assigned by or supervised by the mentor for a total of 110 hours. That should be the case in a proper ministry practicum. Then student will meet with their mentor each week of the semester for a total of 15 hours, and submit usually it's a 1 or 2 page reflection paper. There's a form and on the guidebook or workbook that you may purchase from the office, and at the end of the textbook there is so-called appendix, which will include this forms, and so that kind of it's a report that you make every week for 10 weeks, and that will count 20% of your grade. Then 3, mentoring. Third part, the student will read and read the assigned book. Student will be required to read one of the required textbook. Out of those 3 books, first 2 books are going to be your choice, not the third one. So either first or second book you should read, and then write a short book report on that, and that will count another 10%. So to be proper, this mentoring, which is 40%, actually 30%, is very critical for this class to pass the class with a good grade, and then 10% is a sort of extra for reading and making report. Now, here's a mentoring guideline. I'll go just quickly over this, because even though it's required, we are not going to force it. So. Mentor qualification. These are the qualifications for a mentor in your church, and the mentor must meet the following qualification. A, be a minister of the denomination where the student's current. So it has to be either pastor or associate pastor who has this at least a degree on the ministry. Preferred master of divinity is usually called an MDiv, and that master of divinity is given when you are doing 3 years or more of seminary work, and then you'll acquire that degree. So all the Protestant churches, I don't know about the Catholic churches, but most Protestant churches, you to be a pastor, you need to have this Master of Divinity degree. and except Southern Baptist, I'm ordained of Southern Baptist Church. They do not require this Master of Divinity, but require all the like 80% of congregation or 90% of congregation to agree to give ordination. Oh, so that's another case. So B, have completed a accredited master's degree. Okay, that's what I talked about. Be approved by the professor of the course. The mentor must fulfill the following responsibility. A, meet weekly with the student. B, enter into a mentoring relationship with the students. Include a minimum of 15 hours mentoring. Okay, grading scale. So A's 91 to 100 points, and so on, and then 60 points and under will get an F. So if you attend all the classes, 10 weeks class, at least you'll pass the class automatically. Because I give 60 point plus 1 point extra for so. If you come and sign up for the class at the end of the class, then you'll just pass. Okay. So, any questions? Okay. So don't be too much obsessed about doing the actual practice part. This will be the topics that will be covered as long as the time allows. And part 1, 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. First part, understanding Christian ministry. So to be a Christian minister, you have to understand what the ministry is, what the Christian or biblical ministry is. And so the topics will include lesson 1, introduction to ministry practicum, and lesson 2, ministers in the Bible, and lesson 3, Christian ministry, basic terms and concepts. So that's where the ministry is explained. And the lesson 4, it deals with the biblical ministry, philosophy, and fundamentals. So you define what the ministry is, and you try to give the ethos or the key element of ministry. So that's 4 lessons on part 1. And second part will deal with the principles and theories of a disciple making. Because basically, when we talk about the Christian ministry, the core part, 90% of ministry that you are going to do in a church context has to do with the disciple making. You can call it nurturing or spiritual formation. There are different words that kind of explaining this particular responsibility as a Christian minister. But discipleship, disciple making, spiritual formation, and edification, all these things are the same thing. It has to do with the maturing and growing a Christian. And you are doing it 90% of your ministry. So lesson 1, understanding your flock. So who are your students? Who are your disciples? And lesson 2 deals with a one-to-one personal discipling. And lesson 3 will deal with how to do a small group or small groups. And then lesson 4, managing a larger entity. That lesson 4 part has to do with the administration of a church and also engaging in a worship. So when we think of church ministry, basically it happens on Sundays. And what the Protestant or both Catholic churches do on Sundays are the worship. Worship takes the major part of any Christian practice or ministry. So the larger entity means doing a congregational responsibility as a pastor or as a teacher. So that will be covering these topics in part 2. So that's a kind of introduction to what we are going to cover in this 10-week class of ministry practicum. Again, I'll try to focus more on the theories and principles, and you'll take it. And just for the information, is any of you are currently involved in a church as a teacher or any sort of ministry in your church? None of us? Okay. So
Cooking, volunteer, once a week,
once a week.
but only it's a potluck. It's not a
Once a year?
it's a potluck. What do they call potluck? It's every family has a dish. So it's,
potluck.
yeah, so it's not a volunteer. It's just to eat part.
Well, that's a part of ministry according to how we define ministry in this class. So if you're doing service for the fellowship in a church, yes, it is ministry. And it does apply the same principle for the teacher and those who are serving as a deacon or serving as a kitchen worker in a church. Still the same thing. So yeah, that's considered a ministry. Good question. Okay, so to continue the second one. Okay, that's so much for the introduction for the class, and I'll just go briefly and fast because most of you probably the second or third or fourth time in my class and pretty much know about who I am. But for the new students, I do see some new students here. I'll just do the introduction of myself as a professor and instructor of this particular class. This is how I write my name in English, Korean, and in Chinese character. So if you're familiar with the Chinese letters, characters, you'll know what the meaning of this name is. First letter here is a Chinese character, Hwang. It's usually associated with the emperors or those top officials. I'm not sure if my ancestor came from China, or adopted the Chinese character for the naming. That's my family name. Second letter means the holy or holiness. And the third letter in Chinese character, it means excellency or the excellent. So that's how my grandfather, who was a elder in a church, given me that particular name. So I'm kind of destined to become a pastor and a full-time minister. So now I was born in Seoul, Korea, and moved to Central African Republic when I was in high school, and then I attended high school twice because I had to start learning in high school in English, and then came back to Korea after graduating the high school, and then did my college and then some seminary work in Korea, and then immigrate to U.S. As I came in as a student, just like some of you guys are, and then basically I worked with the Korea University Christian Fellowship, which is a campus ministry, basically. If you're familiar with like a campus crusade or navigators in America, as one of those. And university is one of the well-known campus ministry body or the fellowship. The history is like 170 years old organization. Okay, credentials. This qualifies me to teach these classes. I did a BA in English in Yonsei University in Seoul, Korea, and then did a missiology, study of missions, and got the Master of Arts there. And Master of Divinity, I began my Master of Divinity at the Fuller Seminary, but eventually finished and got the degree from Golden Gate Theological Seminary. Now they changed the name to something else. They moved to Ontario from the Golden Gate in San Francisco. Then I began my PhD study in leadership with famous Bob Clinton, not the President Clinton, but Professor Clinton in Fuller Seminary, and but wasn't able to complete it. Then finished my PhD in William Carey International University, which is again located in Pasadena, north here. So that's kind of works that I done as a student of ministry and as a pastor. Okay. Ministries, again, I worked with the University Korea for many years, and then also worked with the Interserve USA, which is what we call mission agency, and Center for BAM Business as a mission. And I still work as a hospice chaplain, and work as a pastor for Korean American 1.5 and second generation young people. So beside the teaching in this school. Okay, that's and to understand me as a Christian and as a believer of Christian religion, this is how I define myself and my spirituality. I'm a biblical or evangelical Christian, which is probably the well-known term in American context. When you say evangelical Christian, it's a pretty wide range of people who believe the Bible is the Word of God. So that's basic definition for evangelicals in America. So whether it's Biden or, I mean, not the Biden, whether it's Obama, Trump, they call themselves evangelicals. Then I'm a Baptist, meaning I believe in a full immersion of baptism rather than sprinkling sort of baptism. So that kind of, that's a mode of baptism. Then I rather be on intellectual side than emotional side on pursuing how the Christianity should be. I mean, I don't mean that the emotional pursuing is wrong, but as how I am. And then born again and Christian, and I'm a diaspora believer or diaspora believer, which is a little different than any believer who is living and pursuing their belief in a given context. Diaspora are the ones who are carried or picked by God to move to another culture and another country to live there and to become a Christian there. So, okay. Now, okay, finally we begin our lesson. Oops. First lesson, lesson 1, understanding Christian ministry. So to have a ministry practicum, we'll begin by focusing on the word ministry or the biblical Christian ministry. The reason I say biblical ministry is because even though it happens in a church setting, some of the things that are happening in a church is not biblical. Sad to say, but not some from my own experience within the church here in America, the Korean American churches, the things that are not biblical is usually called ministry, which is not ministry at all. Because I want to make a very clear distinctive between the biblical ministry and non-biblical ministry. Just religious thing in a church. That's not, I don't call that or define that as ministry. So we'll use the word ministry in very strict manner, meaning it has to be biblical. It has to be according to Bible. If you do anything that is outside the Bible or which is not in the Bible, then it is not ministry according to our definition. So first, lesson 1, Introduction to Ministry Practicum. What is it? Okay, here are some of the samples. I'll go over this very quickly because this will be just for the information. Or some of you who are actually thinking of any sort of ministry in your own church, that's going to help you to give the idea about the Christian ministry and Christian work. This is I'll give you just 2 samples on how this ministry practicum is done in some other schools, and this is sample 1. It gives a ministry foundation, pastoral care, church and ministry, and then it kind of goes to anger and relationship reconciliation ministry. So that's a kind of particular ministry that can happen in a church. Also, senior adult ministry is also considered a departmental ministry. So any church, I mean, most of church today in America, especially these immigrant churches, like Korean American churches, the membership is more like a seniors, older people. We have more older people than younger ones. Younger ones are going out of church. This is a very sad and a kind of alarming thing that we see today. And then you don't find any young people in a church because they think it's a very old thing, old style thing. And okay, youth ministry. For youth, when we say youth ministry, it's usually from the junior high to high school. So those 6 years, youth ministry covers those 6 years. And some churches include youth, they say young adult ministry or college ministry after the youth ministry. Then women's ministry and marriage counsel, marriage ministry, or excuse me, ministry for the married couples. Because when you're married and at the first 3 years, you'll have a lot of issues and problems and things to be taken care of. So many churches would have this young married couple ministry that separates from the young adult ministry. Or within the young adult ministry, they would have a married couple or young married couple ministry. Then we have a multiplying disciples ministry, which is the core or the basic of any ministry. And disability ministry. Yeah, we have many who are challenged either mentally or physically, or some with some other challenges. Then the churches will provide ministry for those who are we call special and have a special need. Then sermon construction, preaching. This would be one of the basic things that we teach in a seminary. So those Master of Divinity degree, 3-year seminary courses they do have sermon preaching, which would be another whole class. So it is included in here, but Then worship and liturgical ministry. What we mean by liturgical is any clergy or any minister of a church, whether it's Catholic or the Protestant church, they would perform certain rituals, whether it's a wedding or baptism or funerals. You need to learn how to do these things as a minister. So that's what it is. So that's a sample one. And now let's go into the second sample, which will be similar and a little different. And this gives us certain hours of requirement. For example, Module 1 says teaching. Teaching the Bible, basically what it is. Bible teaching, 30 hours. Ministry program engagement. Then discipleship, part 1, part 2. Then congregational care, part 1, part 2. So those are the basic things what we do as a minister. So usually when we say a minister, it means either your deacon or elders or the associate pastor or pastor who is doing these particular jobs. That's a kind of sort of conventional, traditional definition of ministry. But for us, ministry would extend beyond that, like I said before. Evangelism, we need to do the evangelism as any believer, even though you may not be a minister. But if you're a minister by our definition, if you're doing evangelism to your friend or your workplace, which is not, sometimes it's illegal to do the evangelism. It's not sometimes, at least in California. If you're doing evangelism at your workplace, at the work hours, then you can be fined and can be fired for that. Anyway, so if you're doing evangelism to your friends or your co-workers or whoever, family, then that would be considered as ministry according to our definition of ministry. So we need to learn that. And leadership, of course, you need to have a certain level of leadership to be any sort of minister. Mercy, service, and mission. And the church life, continued learning, and capstone project. I'm not sure what the capstone project is, but certain the ministry project that are given as an assignment will be considered. So these are some of the items that you kind of gives the idea. If you're a Christian, if you are involved in church, then you'll know. I mean, without much explanation, you would have understand these terms. But I will try to explain these terms later on. If you're not a believer, if you're not a Christian, and if you're a member of some other religions, then Christianity is still okay, because you do the same things in your own religion, whether it's Islam, Hinduism, or Buddhism. Still, these things apply. You may not call it evangelism, but you share your belief, your faith to others, in intention to convert them into your own religion. So you may use some other different word, but the event mechanism like evangelism is there in any other religion as well. So all these titles, the terms that are given, would be pretty much the same. Just the content would be different, but the very basic means and the approach would be same. So if you're not a Christian, and you still will have ministry practicum, you just exclude Christian or biblical and put whatever your religion is there, and that will guide you and help you to become a teacher and leader in your own particular faith that you believe in. Okay, now, what we do in the ministry practicum is, and usually in a seminary or this kind of a Christian college setting, you learn what the Christianity is, and all the subjects that you find in this school has to do. If you're majoring in biblical studies or Christian ministries, then it aims for you to prepare as a solid believer. That's one thing that we do. The first thing we do. So we try to strengthen your faith, your belief according to the Bible. That's one thing. Once you have that, you are prepared to become a minister. Now, knowing is there, and probably in your heart, a belief. And that belief and your knowing, the knowledge, you want to carry that out into a given reality, which again is a context. So to have that thing work out in that context, we need to practice. So the practicum would be I think it's a Latin word. And in English term would be the practice. So ministry practice or ministry training would be the translation of ministry practicum. We are to practice what we learn. And this class is designed to help you out to put your faith into work in your given context to help others. All right, let's take a 10-minute continue with our second part of lesson 1. I'm in the class week 1 on ministry practicum. Trying to define or explain what the ministry practicum is about. The second point there. So it is field work versus classroom learning. What this class is trying to do, promote, is to put your classroom learning into your field, which is called the learning or the theory or the information that you gain from the school or the classroom is only the information unless you put them into your reality or your context that you live in. By saying context and reality, we mean everything that surrounds you or that you are in. So in other words, it's your world. So we want to put these knowledge and information and learning and lessons or principles into practice, into your reality. That's what it is about. Once you try to put your knowledge and information into your context or your reality, what happens is you are going to be challenged. You are going to be challenged with obstacles or what the theory and reality gap. Always in your life, whether it's a Christianity, religion, or anything else, you have experienced, I mean, if you reach this much age, that you know what you think and the idea or thoughts or the theories always doesn't work in reality as you think. So there's a certain gap. What this trying to do is to help you to narrow down that gap so your theory, your principle, your learning become more real, more practical. And at the same time, you try to bring the reality and then the difficulties and the problems by resolving these issues, bring it to more close to the theory or principle. So it works both ways. So again, trying to put that theory into the reality and reduce the gap between the theory and reality. So if you learn to do that, and by minimizing the gap, then your ministry will be more successful and more biblical, because of what we are learning as a biblical principles, biblical theories, and then the world that you will live in, the church or the temple, whatever your context is, not as you think. Okay. So another analogy there on the third would be like a greenhouse to the battlefield. If we just sit and learn in this comfortable classroom setting, this is like a greenhouse. There's no challenges. But the reality out there, the context, the world is a battlefield. There's a very serious conflict and war that goes on. And there are enemies who are trying to overturn our effort as a believer. So if you're a Christian, we know that it's a battle against the Satan, a battle against the secular ideas who are trying to overturn any believer as long as it is possible. So us ministers are in the front line, very front line of this battle. So we are like a soldiers. That's how the Bible explains who we are. So we are getting out of this comfort zone or greenhouse and into the battlefield, actual battlefield. Then next point, cross-check. Believers, I mean the ministers, when you are doing the work of ministry as a Christian minister, as a Christian leader, what you may face as a leader is a possibility that you may make a mistake, you may go wrong, you may become very proud of yourself and stubborn. All these things does happen to any minister. There's no exception. I can tell you that, including myself. So there has to be a check and balance. Someone needs to check you and tell you when you are going wrong, when you're making mistakes. Someone needs to make a corrections. And this class will help you to make a habit of being checked. And also you can become someone who checks others. So it's a cross-check. And that is always needed for any ministers, any Christian leader who is working in a church context. So cross-check is very important, and check and balance need to be there always for any leader, any worker, any teacher in a church. Again, next point is a theory into work that I already said many times. Real team effort. In a sport, for example, there's one we call individual sports. For example, golf. If you play golf, that is an individual sport. Just you do well, and then the result is good. But if you play soccer or football or baseball or basketball, these are team sports. When you are doing the team sport, one star player he or she cannot be successful. It takes a team effort to win and to be successful. Same thing with the Christian ministry. Christian ministry does not allow, or it doesn't expect superstars. There are those who wants to be a superstar in a Christian ministry, which is against the biblical principle by itself. And if anyone claims himself or herself to be a superstar or the best in a church, then he or she is unbiblical, wrong. So it is a team effort, and you need to work with others to make a church a healthy church. I would rather use a healthy church than the word good church, because to be honest, to be truthful, there's no good church. Or on the other hand, every church is good. So good or bad, there's no bad church. We can say weak or strong church, but not a good or bad church. That's how I understand. So the term healthy or unhealthy would be the proper term to define any church that we are in. Some churches are less healthy than others. Some churches are more healthier than others. So that much difference. It's not a big difference, But we are trying to make a healthy or healthier church. That's what the ministers do. So if you are called as a teacher or pastor or associate pastor in a church, and then what we do as a church member is try to make it healthier or stronger or better, more mature church. To achieve that goal, you need to have this team effort. This principle applies to any other religious organization. So whether it's a Buddhist temple or Islam temple, it's all the same. When your congregation, your body of believers, to be successful and to be healthy, it needs to have this team effort. With us, many of us Asian inheritance, Asian background, the Asian culture is more of one man or one woman kind of cultural context. So because of that, many Asian churches try to focus on the top person, usually the pastor. So that's something that we need to look at for us Asian descendants. Look at it and see if that culture is, whether it's biblical or not. Well, it will be biblical according to the Old Testament principle and structure. But when we turn to New Testament, it's different. So New Testament principles and teachings is more horizontal. It's not like a one-person centered. It's a more of team thing. So I think that would be one of the clear distinction between the Old Testament setting of the religion or the Christianity, or that's Judaism, versus Christianity in the New Testament. And I'd like you to remember us who are having Asian culture as our background, we need to kind of change our perspective. I'm not saying the one man, one person leadership is wrong, but it's less biblical. Then, next term would be appropriateness. What we mean by appropriateness is something that you learn at school in the classroom is what we call ideal. Ideal is a good word when you are trying to set up a standard. But ideal becomes a bad word when you ignore the given reality and the context. So ideal versus our ministry, or the perspective and the position of a minister is somewhere between ideal and practical. And our job as a minister is to make that judgment on which is the best position between ideal and practical. Because I told you there's a big gap between what we learn from the Bible and what it is in the world, or the reality. So you are making the call and the judgment and say, I am somewhere in between. And we are trying to bring this ideal into practice or the reality. And then bringing that practice close to ideal. So there's always a biblical ideal. And appropriateness is making that decision, which is the best for us now and to the current context that we are in. This is the same in the business as well. If you're doing any sort of business, you're always making this call every day. What you're trying to be ideal, which is the best to earning as a business, but the reality does not give you that best earning that you expect, and you are trying to make a best of the reality toward this ideal in money making. So this principle applies to all other life context as well. But in a church setting, if you're a minister, you are making that decision every day as a minister. So what's best for our people, our congregation, or my flock? What is the best appropriateness of God's will, God's desire for the people who are in reality or in practical? So that's what it is. Real discipling, it's related to this. The idea of discipleship or discipling that is given in the Bible is very ideal. And we are trying to bring it to the reality. So by making that experience and practice, you do understand and know what it takes to have a good discipleship and to be a good disciple maker. And it's not that easy, I can tell you. Out of my 30-some years of experience as a disciple maker myself, it's not that easy. And it's not always the same. It depends, it is different from one person to another person. And what you know from the past, your experience as a disciple maker may not work at this particular time and moment and given reality or context. So you need to always continue to learn, to adopt, and to relearn, and to reset what you already know and have experienced. That's the most difficult thing or difficult obstacle that you need to overcome as a minister. And the experiences, I just talked about the experiences. The more experiences, better. I can tell you that. But one thing that may trap you from experiences, not all the experience that you have for many, many years, it may not apply at the given situation that is different from what you already know from the experience. So what I'm trying to tell you as a minister is don't rely on your experiences. That's one major mistake many ministers make today. So experiences are only experiences as long as it applies to, it is the same context with the same people and same situation. But there is no same people, same situation, same context. It doesn't happen that way. So experiences are only good as long as you use as a kind of lesson and basis for your ministry. Why is it necessary to have this ministry practicum in a seminary or Christian college like ours, or for any minister to be? Number one, confirmation and affirmation. One of the major problems that we have in today's church is there are many those who are so-called ministers or leaders in a church who does not qualify as a leader or minister. So that would be the major issue. And it's the same in today's politics and in other areas as well. But in a church, that would be a very serious thing. If someone is not called to be a minister and he or she is acting as a minister, then it is a very dangerous thing. So it does require confirmation and affirmation. What we mean by confirmation is make sure this person qualifies as a minister. One thing that does not happen is you cannot tell by just looking at that person for a few seconds. It doesn't work that way. It's like trying to make that decision for a marriage. You cannot marry someone by just having a cup of tea together and then make the decision to get married. It doesn't work that way. It takes sometimes many years of dating and confirming and affirming, and then you make that decision to get married and live together. Very similar in this. So it takes a time-consuming, very complex checking and rechecking to confirm if he or she is qualified and called to be a minister of any church or congregation or any body of believers. So that's what we do at a school or a seminary, trying to make that third person confirmation about this particular student, if he or she have that basic qualification as a minister, which will include these things that I'm going to explain further. Number one, gift check. In the Bible, there's what we call gifts. According to Christian, theology or doctrine, there are at least three different gifts. Three different gifts. Gifts are something that is given. Okay, something that is given. Number one, that is given with your birth. There are certain things, talents and gifts that you are born with. So it could be skills, it could be your intelligence, or your strength, or health. All these are gifts. They're good things. Some of these things that you're born with. As a minister, there's a certain gifts that you can be born with, and that can be used in your ministry settings. Number two, there are certain gifts that is called learned gift. These gifts are gained or attained by certain training or schooling and learning. So you learn certain ministry gifts as you mature and grow as a Christian. It takes a time, it takes a very effort, it takes a practice, it takes a trial and error, but eventually you are going to gain or attain certain gift that is for the ministry. For example, one of the learned gift for me would be the characteristic or personality. I'm a very extreme introvert. I don't like to stand in front of people and speak. I don't, speak that much at home. Probably usually 20 to 30 words a day would be the most. But I need to speak as a preacher, pastor, as a disciple maker. You need to become very extrovert. So, the character that you see at this classroom is not really who I am. I was. But what you see is a learned gift. Of course, English is another thing. That's a learned gift. I wasn't born in America, and I did learn this language word by word, and so on. So these are what we call learned gift, and I use this gift at a church, in a classroom, and so on. Then, what we call spiritual gift or inspired gift. And according to the Bible, this gift is given by the Holy Spirit when you become a Christian. This may be added in the later times. Once you become a Christian, Holy Spirit can give you certain gifts. In my case, there's a gift, what we call the word here meaning the Bible. So knowledge and wisdom of these are two different gifts, and then I'm sure that I got it from the Holy Spirit. I have a knowledge of the word gift, and then wisdom of that. That is a gift that you haven't studied, you haven't given so much effort, but somehow you know what this certain Bible word means, and have this skills and the knowledge to interpret and understand the word of Bible better than others. So certainly that is a sort of gift. And sometimes some people get the speaking of tongue, which is not the language that you use or learned. Sometimes you have the tongue in in other languages, and then you can speak a tongue with the heavenly languages and so on. And the gift of prophecy, that all we also consider the spiritual gift. So,
Dreams.
Dreams, yeah, that dream as well. So there are many different spiritual gifts that are given to you to become a minister. So this speaking of tongue or interpretation, these are the gifts, considered gifts, because it helps not only you, but eventually the gifts are given to help other Christians, other believers. So that's why it's called ministry gifts or ministerial gifts. So gift check. So by doing the ministry practicum and the class, and with the mentor and professor, and we try to find what your gifts are and help you to develop your gifts. So sometimes some of the gifts you even don't know that you have a certain gift. And by doing this class, and with the help of mentor and the teacher, that you'll eventually find out, yes, I do have that gift, huh? And that kind of understanding. So that's what we call gift check. Third point here, fit and appropriateness. Some are called as a teacher. Some are called as evangelists. Some are called as a caregiver, and so on. So there are many different kind of gifts. Some are called as a missionaries. Some are called to be a good preacher. And by examining and testing and making practice, we eventually know whether this person fits best for a certain job. So we do the same thing in a business as well. When you are trying to train a worker and as a business owner or boss, what you do as a boss of a business is try to make the best of a person that you're hiring. And the main thing is to find out the best position for that person to fit and to work best. So the same principle in a church setting as well. Then apprentice. What we mean by the apprentice, which is the title of the show where many years ago this now President Trump was hosting, the famous "You Are Fired." That's the title of that show, Apprentice, meaning you are being tested as an intern, or you are being examined to see if you are good by learning and repeating that process of learning again and again. That's what the apprentice is. So that's another word is someone who learns to become an expert. Because the ministry, Christian ministry, or any ministry in any religion, you need to be an expert. Expert in at least one thing. Whether it's a Bible teaching, whether it's a preaching, whether it's a small group, whether it's in the cross-cultural mission, or whether it's a mercy ministry out there distributing the food for the hungry and the homeless. All these things, it takes a very special expertise, and it's something that we call professionalism. So without having that heart of professionalism, then you are not going to be a successful minister. God does not want you to be just so and so. God wants you to be an expert on what you're doing. So if you are called as a minister, and then you need to develop this expertise for at least one or more things that you do as a minister. So it takes an apprentice. Continuing the title, why is it necessary? Like an internship and residency. That's what we use in the medical field when we say internship. To become a medical doctor, you need to have a certain period of internship plus residency. At least that's 3 years. Sometimes it's 2 years plus 3 years, or 3 years plus 3 years, depend on which country you are. And I'm not sure if I told you, my father was a medical doctor, and I have 3 other younger brothers who are all medical doctors. So I do know these things, and it takes a lot of hard work, and then overcoming obstacles to become a medical doctor. Because the medical doctors, they do deal with the actual life of a human being. And it does need to have a very serious training. But when you are a minister, you are taking care of one's spiritual life, which is much more important and more serious than physical life. So it is important to take a very serious training, the time of internship and residency and so on. And that should happen with the ministry practicum. So on my opinion, just usually it requires 2 semesters of ministry and practicum in seminary. But if you're doing a master, I think it's 2 semesters of this class. But in the college level, this is just an elective. And that 2 semester is usually 1 year, right? And the 1 year internship and residency, I don't think it's enough. But that's why we need to be trained in a church context continually, even after taking this ministry practicum class. Anyway, going back to the next point, practice makes it better. Not makes it better. This is true in anything, whether you're engaged in sports or cooking, homemaking, babysitting. Everything that we do as a human being, it makes better by practicing time after time. And this class, ministry practicum, kind of offers unforced or structured format for practice. So you are encouraged, sometimes forced to make a practice. So if you're to be a good in any sport, it takes a lot of practice, and unforced, framed practice is required. Same thing with a minister, because a minister is a serious responsibility. Any level of minister, it is a serious stuff. So it takes a lot of practice. Of course, in the course of practice, you will make a mistake. You are allowed to make mistakes. So this is the time that you can make many mistakes as possible, because you are allowed to make mistakes during your internship and residency. But once you become a minister, actual minister of a church, then you want to make the least mistakes as much as possible. To do so, you should practice a lot before you become actual real minister. So this class offers you an opportunity and the freedom to make the mistakes and correct those mistakes and learn from these mistakes, which is trial and error kind of thing. So the trial and errors are allowed, and then by looking at your trial and error, mentors and the professor helps you to correct them, to improve them, and to develop them. So that's what this class is designed to do. And not only in this class, everything you do as a person has the same principle. There has to be, it's always good and better to have someone to watch over you and give proper and right advice. And for young people today, they find them in YouTube and social medias. I mean, that's sometimes it's helpful to have those things than having nothing. But many times, because of this something called algorithm, you are directed to one direction without having to have that wisdom and knowledge and training to make a proper judgment on the stuff that you look on your smartphone and your computers. Then you are going to be misled. So that's a danger for today's young people, and we need to someone who is a person, not the AI. AI can do so much, and whatever the human invention, there's always that good and danger. Same thing with the nuclear power. We know what happened, and it's going to be the same thing for AI and robotics and everything. So we need to make that discernment, and that discernment, it doesn't always come from within, and it doesn't happen that way. Discernment happens when you are helped to discern, and then you can make your own judgment by discerning these advices. But when you have a good and well-trained, well-experienced mentor to help you out and map your own road as a minister, as a person, then you'll make a less mistake. Not only the less mistakes, there's what we call unnecessary mistake. You need to avoid this unnecessary mistake. It means there are some necessary mistakes. But unnecessary mistakes, once you make it, then it might be the end of everything. So the mentor is there to help you avoid these unnecessary mistakes or unnecessary delays that can happen. So it is important for us to have a good, experienced mentor to become a good and better minister of God. Next point. It reveals true strength and weakness. Any person, even at his or her best, or better than others, even those who are so-called better than others, they do have weakness and strength. It is true. So that means no one is perfect. No one is perfect. Even those who are called as a minister, no one's perfect. We see this in biblical examples. For example, Abraham. He didn't make a mistake, and God had to correct them. Moses. Someone even worshipped Moses, but he didn't make many mistakes in front of God. And when he leads out the people of Israel out of Egypt, he did make a very serious mistake, and he was corrected. So if you look at these biblical characters, except Jesus and Jesus only, every single person that are written in the Bible, they do make mistakes, and it is due to their weakness. So people, if you have strength, and you do have serious weakness. If you have a very strong strength, outstanding qualities that is fit for the ministry, then you would have that much serious weakness that will hinder that best quality. So there's a word, and I think it's in I'll say in Asian culture, when the mountain is high, the valley is deep. So that applies to this, and it is true. And by going through this ministry practicum, that you'll find out what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. What do you do with the weakness? We do our best to improve and make a, try to overcome weakness. And some weakness you may never be able to overcome in spite of all the efforts that you are given. And that's what we call limitation. And it is very important for us ministers, if you are to be a minister of a church, you need to admit and recognize your limitation. Those who are not doing it, or who are too stubborn, too proud of himself or herself, and ignores the limitation, he or she does fail. I have seen it over and over many times in the Korean American churches, and that will be the very big, like a red flashing sign for a person who does not admit his or her weakness or limitation. So me as a pastor, if I see that, and that's not going to be changed within a immediate time, then I never make that person a leader of a church. Even a small group leaders, I avoid them. And that's how you can avoid a big tragedy or crisis in a church. You may be blamed for not choosing a certain person as a minister, or not recognizing certain person as a leader in a church for that particular time, but you have to see a long-term thing. That's what the leader is for. So if you make that mistake of making this person who does not recognize his or her own weakness and limitation, then you are going to see a big crisis. So that's one of the qualities that you need as a leader, or the top leader of a congregation or church. Okay. That being said, we'll conclude today's lesson. And I'm going to see you next week, and thank you for coming. And before you go,